Welcome to Club IDIC. Tonight, we will be watching The Storyteller from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and we will be discussing learning to move beyond tolerance. Please enjoy this meeting. Hello.
Hey Heather, how you doing? How's it going?
Oh, it's been a busy day.
Yeah, busy day. I see you doing the table read of Lisa Simpson.
Oh, yes, yeah. That was on Tuesday. Today, we're focusing on this lovely historical-based episode. And I originally picked this episode for last year, but then ran out of time to do it. And so we're doing it this month. Because this month, Roots Tech, I don't know if you know what Roots Tech is, or Family Search. Family Search hosted this family history conference called Roots Tech, and people can attend either online or in person, and they can learn about how to do genealogy.
Right, which I know is one of your pursuits.
Yes, I'm actually in school for it right now. And, family history is a very important part of our lives, and we should all be doing it if we're not doing it, because family history helps us to learn who we are as people and who our ancestors were. And, this episode brings us to another important part of history, the beginning of Miles and Julian as friends.
Right.
And stories are important because every friendship has a story, and so do they.
Yes. So that reminds me, when did we meet?
When did we meet?
Yes.
Oh, I have to check the episodes because I've actually gone through and written down who attended what. So
I meant us, Heather.
I know I've written down when you came to the first meeting. I just can't remember.
Off the top of your head.
I can't remember. Can't remember. I'm sorry. I have a really bad memory. So, what is your favorite part of the history of Miles and Julian? Since we're focusing on that. Oh,
That's it. Okay.
yeah, my week was just okay. But what's your favorite part of the history of Miles and Julian's friendship? What we got to see?
But you mean the part where they were trying to build the scale replica of the Alamo and reenacting the Alamo battle over and over and over again?
That was your favorite part?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I mean, it's interesting, the whole concept of friendship. Friendship comes when learning to move beyond tolerance proves successful, but learning to move beyond tolerance is a journey that takes much patience and grace. And what can stop us from learning to move beyond tolerance? What can stop us from even tolerating a person? What do you think?
It depends on the subject.
And why would a person not want to even tolerate another person?
Oh boy, that's a tough one right there.
I dare
Why
you.
somebody doesn't want to tolerate them? Because people kind of have their own little quirks, what they like, what they don't like, and sometimes they can take it to the extreme, kind of like ethnic prejudice. To go there for a second, okay, guys, I know you want people who think like even around here, you want people who think the way you think or look the way you look, dress how you dress, and basically you have to have an interest in the person, right? To try to look beside like little details like that. If you really want to, you can't know a person if you don't want to.
Right. Well, that's, that, and I'm in agreement with that. I personally started Club IDIC because a lot of people didn't want to know me. They didn't want to try to know me. And I started this space so people could have a safe place to get to know each other and also get to know me. And I hope that more people come and understand that, because this is really a safe place. Now that it started out rough because I trusted the wrong people to have my back. And now that those people are no longer around, I'm trying my best to make it a safe environment.
Yeah, even though our numbers have dwindled drastically.
That's true. But it is a safe place, and it is a safe place that I hope people can come and get to know each other and our love of trekking.
Yeah, and not that crazy 12-year-old that was asking us about Obamacare.
No.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten that.
But I just, I want people to feel safe. I want people to feel like they're welcome, because people are definitely welcome. People have a right to come and discuss each other life and their love of Trek.
Yeah.
And we've got to stop simply hating each other or simply tolerating each other, because tolerance is not love. And that's, the whole thought of tolerance, the whole thought of people's lack of tolerance for me and for each other, that's where the essay comes in that I wrote. Did you read it?
TLDR.
What?
TLDR. Too long, didn't read.
Oh, well, sorry about that. We're gonna talk a little bit about it if you don't mind.
No, no, no problem. No problem.
Like, have you seen the Storyteller at least?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get caught up on certain episodes of DS9.
Well, it's a fairly early one.
Yeah.
It's back before Julian really had any friends on the station. He was trying to find his place, as it were, and he was seen as a bit of an outcast, you see, because of his neurodivergency. Because let's be fair, Julian Bashir was neurodivergent. Let's be fair. Even as an augment, he was a neurodivergent socially. Let's be fair. Let's be real.
Hmm.
He was always eager to please, but always saying very inappropriate things as he was trying to fit in, being inappropriate socially. Let's be fair.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So, and Miles was one of those people who didn't like him. And so, people needing to move beyond tolerance. And this essay was actually inspired by some things that were said at a GalaxyCon panel, a virtual one that was back in 2021.
Mhm.
Like where Chase Masterson and Max Grodenchik were talking about tolerance, and Chase was talking about Spock standing up for each other. Like Spock pretty much said, what did Spock say? Spock said, Chase said that we need to be more like Spock and stand up for those who lack the ability to stand up for themselves. And Max said, He spoke on the true meaning of tolerance. He said that we should do more than just tolerate each other,
Yeah.
and that tolerating is admitting differences exist, but
Yeah,
appreciating
I
them.
guess getting to know your fellow man is a little tall order for some people.
Yes. But we do because we all exist in the same, we need to because we all exist in the same world. And Max said that tolerating is just admitting that differences exist, but appreciating is loving that differences exist.
Yeah.
We really do need to do more than just tolerate. We need to love and stop throwing each other away like garbage. Even, I mean, when people are difficult to love. Because loving the differences exist is part of what IDIC is about. And true love includes helping people love themselves and find the good in themselves when they struggle to. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure with all the augmentations and all the struggles that Jillian went through as a child and a teenager, especially after he found out what his parents had done to him, I'm sure that he struggled to love himself as a person, because who was really loving him?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he was reminded on that station every day, oh, I'm not loved. Who cares about me? I'm weird. I have to look at myself in the mirror every day. I'm weird. And people don't want to include me in anything or love me, but I have to look at myself in the mirror every day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I read that. I read that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, I read your posting online about how, no, I don't even want to go there, but how I know how you could stay. How do I say this? I know we're recording.
You can say it. I won't be mad.
How no matter as much as you try, you can't develop romantic feelings for anything or anyone.
Well, it's not that. I can love people to a point, but just being romantic is difficult. I'm incapable of it right now.
Oh, that's a nice outlook.
Like it's literally, I've just literally tried, and maybe I'm just broken right now. Maybe that's what it is.
Sorry, kindly repeat that.
Maybe I'm just broken right now because, in the past I did try to show romantic feelings by getting guys to ask me to dance and being friendly to them. So they would ask me out and include me. And they would always be very cruel about how they said no.
Mm.
So perhaps I'm broken, or maybe I really am incapable of loving beyond a point. But that doesn't mean I don't care. That doesn't mean I'm not capable of being a caring person. It doesn't mean I'm incapable of being a loving person. I just can't be romantic and just show romantic gestures. I can show that I care.
You do know there are different types of love, right?
Yes, there are different types of love. But if you're wanting a certain type from me, I'm not sure I can give that certain type. I can only be a certain type of way, I think.
Mm.
I mean, I'm capable of caring. I just can't be the mushy, you know, mushy type.
Yeah,
But I'm still capable of loving, just not in a certain way.
right. And without going back to the whole kids discussion.
You can do that if you want. I don't care. It's healthy to talk about.
Oh, you really want me to say that? Are you sure?
Hand over heart.
Okay.
Like it, I mean, if a guy just is that cruel to bring it up, I mean, that's not the guy for me. But if a guy gets it, that's okay. Like maybe I am really a bit of a Julian Bashir, because I used to bring it up all the time as an anxiety when I really sensed it was the wrong guy to be around. But now I'm just accepting it to the point where Yeah, I'm okay with the impact of that.
Okay.
Now, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, like, basically your denomination kind of looked at relationships a certain way.
They do,
And
and that's
me
why I
being,
stand out.
yeah, me being a, hold on a second.
I mean, really, Anthony, you're not offending me by telling me this. I'm aware that my denomination looks at relationships a certain way. I'm very aware of it. That's why I stand out so much in the social culture of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you've gotten like flack for that over the years.
A lot.
Like, oh, why you ain't gonna settle down? Why you ain't gonna give me no kids? Why you watch that there Star Trek?
I compare that to Julian standing out in Deep Space Nine. We're both very different from our culture.
You mean the regular Julian or the shapeshifter that
The
pretended to
regular
be the first
Julian,
season?
like we both stand out in our culture. And, I'm to the point where I don't care anymore. I'm at this acceptance stage because the 20s were wasted trying to do everything I could to prevent it and change it. But the 30s are about, well, 35 is about accepting what is and not caring about what people think of me.
Right, right.
And I mean, it's not offensive. You can say what you want.
Because from my experience, that some people are kind of wimps. They can't stand to hear anything they don't like.
I used to be that way, but that side of me is dead now, I think. It
Be
died.
certain.
I think getting diagnosed with a condition, you wake up to a lot of things and realize you're never going to be like anybody else that you expected to be like. You're never going to fit into the culture you're a part of. So why keep trying?
All
Just be
right.
yourself.
Okay. So I guess that's the before part. Since I highly doubt anybody else is
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I do advertise it. I do take a lot of pride in it, but I am very grateful that you took time out of your day to come and discuss this episode and essay with me. And I hope you realize that I am grateful for you. And I hope you know that I am grateful that you took time out of your day, even though you're tired, to come spend time with me.
yes, and never mind the fact I'm 2 time zones ahead of you.
I know I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. And whenever we meet, we shall go out to dinner and I shall be grateful for your company.
Mm, okay. But at
And we
least
shall eat Italian, we shall eat a real New York pizza, and we shall eat cannolis, and we won't throw them. I shall share one with you.
okay. I was gonna mention right before guess before we move on to the episode,
Yes.
I will say that at least you right now, I'm dealing with biblical stuff going on right now, weather-wise.
Would you like to look outside my window?
Well, what's going on there?
We have a massive, massive, massive blizzard raining snow and cold all over our city.
Okay, I'm talking about, I'm dealing with biblical. Well, I'm not. I'm exaggerating here in my case. I know over in the western half of of my country, it's biblical.
Well, you could always come to Canada.
Well,
I have a nice Italian restaurant right down the street.
yeah. Didn't you date yourself to Burger King this time?
McDonald's. So what? I could always take you to the Italian restaurant down the road.
Hmm.
It would seem it's kind of your taste. You'd like it.
Hmm. Yeah, I know tomorrow morning it's gonna suck for me.
I'm sorry.
Otherwise, hey, I don't know. I know I'm exaggerating, but I guess how do I tie this into tonight? Like the way people feel is like sort of like a biblical plague of ignorance,
Oh,
tolerance, and people who really should be chased down by grasshoppers, like locusts.
ouch.
I didn't
Do
say
you want the
you.
little things to feed on everybody's bones? Wow. But yes, we should get to the episode. Yes, the storyteller from Deep Space Nine. I trust you know how to find it.
So what's the episode again?
The storyteller.
Okay, storyteller. See you in an hour.
Yes, see you in an hour.
Okay.
Hi.
Told you to take about 5 more minutes.
Yes, I'm very patient.
Yeah, well then again, my Paramount Plus has commercials.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know what you got up there where you're at.
Crave. I'm on Crave.
Okay, well, number one, I can see why the Rock has never been brought up again in the whole series.
That's right. You know, we're actually entering the beginning of the episode starts with the great social experiment, the daily social experiment, where either Miles and that we face daily people that we might not want to socialize with to the point where we go to great lengths to try and avoid it, or we're Julian eager to get into life and interacting with people that may not want to interact with us, but we don't know that.
Mm. And the other thing I was going to say, nothing like an existential crisis to bring people together.
Oh, that's so very true. I mean, I don't know why Miles didn't like Julian. Perhaps he was just too different to understand. And that's why a lot of people didn't like Julian. But Miles, ever so politely, was much too polite to actually say, I don't like you. And Cisco wasn't going to tolerate Miles being unprofessional. Cisco could tell that Miles didn't want to go, but Cisco was not going to let Miles say, hey, I don't want to go. And Miles actually tried to say, can somebody else actually go on this? And Cisco could tell Miles didn't want to go with Julian, and Cisco was not going to say, I'm going to let Cisco was really not going to let Miles get out of this just because he didn't like Dr. Bashir.
Yeah.
Because he's like, Cisco was like, I don't care if you don't like Dr. Bashir. I'm not going to let personal things get in the way of your duty. You guys are the most qualified for this mission. Get going, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know, it's almost comedic. I'm not talking about the little side story with Nog and Jake. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you're having a fan club and you don't want it.
Well, I mean, when you become prominent in anything, you're going to attract a fan club, whether you want it or not.
Yep. Yes, girls, flowers, some dude with a knife trying to turn you into Swiss cheese.
And I mean, the best thing you can do for your fan club is to be a good example to them.
And I take it you're just going to relate to something happening on your end of things.
Not yet. Like, I won't deny that I haven't been recognized in public, because I have been recognized in public for things I've done online. And
Right.
they've
Right.
recognized me for good things I've done online. And I talked to them. I took pictures with them. Those are on Facebook. I dare you to find them.
Yeah, they're in there somewhere.
I'll even show them to you later. They were the most
Okay.
hilarious. I was recognized in a small town and in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Is Lethbridge jealous of
I
something?
don't, well, I was actually in a movie that was shot in Medicine Hat, Alberta. That's now on Amazon Prime, Anthony. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, for somebody that says they have a hard time with like relationship stuff. I see you typed on this side chat. Oh my God, you are cute and you giggle.
Yes,
Really?
well, I can flirt, but I'm not very good at it.
Well, we saw that with Nog in this episode.
Well, maybe I've got a little bit of him in me. I just, maybe there's a part of me that's broken, but I'm just not very romantic, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can be loving and
Uh,
caring in different ways.
yeah, we already talked about that part.
We did. So let's move on.
So
Let's go
yes,
to the
anyway,
shuttle.
well,
Let's
it wasn't unlike most TV shows, the whole thing between Miles and Julian wasn't resolved in 45 minutes.
No, it wasn't. But the histories have a beginning, stories have a beginning, and the beginning was a conversation.
Like, oh, you're my superior. The only reason I put up with you because you're my superior officer.
No, that wasn't the beginning. The beginning was a question, and all good stories, all good histories start with a question. And I've learned this when I do I'm in a class right now where we have to learn about researching families and people, and there's always a research question that we have to find before we can do the research,
Go
a
on.
research problem. And the question that Julian asks Miles is, do I annoy you?
And Miles, trying to be nice, says, no, sir.
He actually, instead of giving an honest response, Miles asks, what sort of a question is that, sir? And I mean, in my essay, Tolerance is Not Love, that I wrote on Trexsphere, I said that Miles did his best to avoid answering it. He even attempted to use his rank as an excuse to use rank. He said, what kind of a question is that, sir? Because, Julian is a neurodivergent, and he clearly lacks the ability to tell that Miles doesn't want to answer the question for fear of hurting feelings.
Yeah.
Miles also is a superior officer. Miles also knows that Julian is a superior officer and doesn't want to get written up. Because he's like, oh, Julian could be a jerk and write me up for not answering according to protocols.
Yeah.
And Miles decides, oh, I'm going to play the tolerate card instead because that's the easiest things. And Julian doesn't get it, and it goes right over his head that Miles is tolerating Julian.
Yeah, and I guess in season one, Dr. Bashir was a little ditzy.
He was. And I mean, we can see the facial expressions, and Cole Meany does a very good job of acting this out non-verbally. You can tell by his facial expressions and non-verbal reactions that Julian's question has an easy answer. The question, do I annoy you? The answer to the question.
What
The
is
answer to the
yes?
research problem is yes. But Miles doesn't know how to answer that verbally without causing hurt. He doesn't want to cause hurt, but he's also struggling to maintain his patience.
Oh, ouch.
Sorry. And then, Julian.
No, you're not boring me to tears.
Oh, I
I'm
know
just
that.
going.
I could never bore you. You'll tell me the truth if I'm boring you anyway. Julian's oblivious to this all. I don't think he can interpret tones very well, or facial expressions or nonverbal cues very well.
Yeah.
So during the conversation, Julian admits he's acting the way he does, babbling, being nervous, over talking. It's called cocktail chatter, and it's associated with ADHD. It's something that a mental health professional told my mother that I had as a child, because I used to do that a lot. I still do that a lot out of nervous habit. And Julian admits that he acts the way he does out of nervous habit, and he's very worried that Miles will hold it against him. And we see this kind of Julian-like behavior with Barclay and TNG, right?
Oh yeah, Barclay definitely.
And people are a little bit ruder, well, a lot ruder to Barclay and TNG. Like they call him broccoli, they mock him. Geordi's outright rude.
Well, what do you expect? He's a side character.
I know, but Miles is very patient, as is Cisco. Everybody's patient and tolerant. Now, why do you suppose that is, that there's a difference in how Julian and Barclay are treated?
Oh, you mean like in terms of the way the stories are written, how people look at them in general? Like, what are we getting at? Yeah, I know, from my perspective, no, Barclay is basically, for lack of a better term, the token. Gotta think here, like the
Token
token,
disabled character?
yeah, token neurodivergent character.
Well, let's see. Star Trek TNG was I believe it was born in 1987.
Yes,
And DS9, I believe, was, oh gosh, when did,
early '90s.
yeah, and they were just, the early 90s, they were starting to get into the crux of exploring disabilities just a little bit more. And in the 80s, kids with disabilities were still getting locked away.
Yeah, basically, like they have Barclay as a misfit, because he has his okay, I'm not trying to be in psychiatrist mode here,
You can do
but
whatever you want.
he's like like, okay, he's our, okay, this is how we could tell the mental health. Oh, look, we got somebody on Star Trek who is neurodivergent, has mental health issues. Okay, and then they put Barclay in ridiculous situations, like hooking him up to a computer or turning him into a spider.
They torture him.
But Julian, he's a hero. He's the main cast. Okay, whatever. Okay, he's doofy, he's Luffy, but we have to make him look good regardless, because we can't have people making fun of him. So, and also another thing I would say just popped in my mind. What did DS9 have that TNG didn't?
Oh, a lot of things.
Can you think of the one I'm thinking in my head right now?
I
I'll give
don't
you
know.
seconds.
I don't know. Like, oh, there's so many things that they did. More diversity.
Ira Stephen Bear.
That's true. And Ira was not afraid to push the envelope.
They come up with better stories that work around the person's quirks.
And I've heard that the person playing Dr. Bashir didn't like that Julian was a know-it-all and would flub the lines. I don't know if this is true or not.
And oh right, you're gonna bring up the story with you and Alexander Siddig.
Well, I've heard I don't know which one, but I've heard that he didn't like,
The one where he stopped talking to you.
I don't know, but I haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's well. I heard he didn't like the way the character was portrayed because he didn't want to be another Data. And I think he flubbed the lines a lot. And then I'm not sure what happened, but they came up with this story where Julian was augmented.
Talking about augments, you should see the security chief in Strange New Worlds.
Yes, I like Strange New Worlds. Yes, and I mean, it's amazing how this story played out, and tolerating and
It
moving
reminds me of
from
you.
tolerance to friendship is really a strange new world for many, because it's so easy to tolerate and it's so easy to really capitalize on differences and hate people over differences, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, like as I said earlier, if you really want to know somebody, you'll put your little prejudices and biases to the side, as opposed to smearing people.
I
And you
mean,
proved that earlier.
it's so easy to hate people, and I wish we wouldn't. And it takes a very difficult situation sometimes for people to stop hating each other. And
Yeah. If you really want to delve into that, I know this is a Star Trek group, but I would recommend as recommended viewing. I would suggest Twilight Zone season 1. The monsters are due on Maple Street. Well, granted, that show is kind of birthed out of Cold War paranoia, but it does see what happens when people turn against each other and look for the like little things that justify the hate.
I mean, everybody literally, that brings up an interesting point. People use idiotic reasons to sometimes justify their hate. People are so difficult to understand that they would rather just cut people out of their lives than try to understand them. But sometimes people are locked in situations with those who are difficult to understand, so they have to rely on them. And sometimes they make a friend. Like Miles was stuck
Yeah,
in a situation with Julian as his only available friend. So
yeah, that's nobody's gonna get out of that. So
they had to work together.
yeah, I'm like, well, I still feel the edge at the end of the episode.
They had to work together because Miles was suddenly placed in this position of very great responsibility of
Well,
well-being and
it
care. Oh,
wasn't Miles's fault that the old man didn't trust the young man.
well, I know, but he was given great responsibility, and Miles needed the encouragement and he needed the support. And Julian's role as doctor is do no harm and provide support. So Miles had that support.
Yeah, even though he's like, oh, like, ugh, why this one? Couldn't they have assigned me, like, I don't know, Ensign Williams from engineering or something instead of this Luffy doctor? Remember how, like, asking Captain Cisco, is this necessary?
Yeah.
Trying to get out of having to be around Dr. Bashir?
Yeah. And I mean, some people are difficult to get along with, and some people really need to understand how they may be perceived so they can work on themselves. I'll admit there are times that I have to be reminded and talked to by people I know who care about me so I can change myself and alter my personality for the better. And that's okay because I believe in my ability to learn and grow, just like Julian did. He had to be able to have those people in his life that could
Mm-hmm.
point out to him, hey, you need to be better in this. That's why he
Yeah.
and
I'll
Cisco
say
worked
this.
well together. That's
Yeah,
why
like people with autism. No, sometimes people don't understand that. No, so I'm just cleaning my glasses here.
Like,
So they don't
I think
understand.
Cisco made a good captain for Julian. And when Miles was his friend, I think Miles made a good friend for Julian because Miles was able to point out what Julian missed because of his lack of understanding of social skills and social
Yeah,
cues.
because like sometimes you gotta spell it out, Heather.
Yeah, I know. And it's a good thing that there are people willing to be in my life and spell things out. And it's really good. Like, tolerance is not love. And if more people were willing to move past tolerance and love one another as they are, then
Mhm.
perhaps there'd be less conflict in the world.
Right. I hope you're not gonna break into a John Lennon moment here. He's scary.
No, I mean, if everybody were more willing to accept each other's authentic selves, perhaps there'd be more joy, less people would be depressed. And I mean, you have to admit, Julian cannot erase who he is. Julian cannot erase his disability. And Miles eventually came to understand that and understand that Julian simply needed a friend to accept him as who he was.
Mhm.
And that's what we all need as human beings. I mean, Star Trek is supposed to be about IDIC, and IDIC means infinite diversity and infinite
With
combinations. And infinite combinations is supposed to include those with neurodivergency.
Yes, and it means including people all the time, not just when it's convenient for you.
It's not easy being someone who sees and interprets the world, people, or situations differently than others. But you know, people like me have to do it every day because
Well,
we deserve
you're
to have a
you.
life. We deserve to have a life like everyone else.
Well,
We
if
don't
you're
need to be
you,
locked away.
you have to live as you, and you have to make the best of it.
We really do. And I mean, the story, because everybody has a story, and neurodivergency is part of stories. I mean, we're seen as strange creatures, but we see the world and people we interact with as strange new worlds every single day we go out. And I mean, we're not bad, we're not wrong, we're not dangerous, we're worthy of getting to know. And that's our story. And we're trying to get to know people so we can get to know everybody else's story. And that's history.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, why are people afraid of what they don't understand? Why do you think?
Because people are hardwired to be angry at things they don't. Oh, that thing does like me. I have to kill it, which is like a whole opens a whole jar of what you might call it. Nothing good can come out of hate. But you just think it's like you just raised to think that oh no, thing is different for me. I must vanquish it. I go and be with things that look like me or sound like me.
I mean, we risk a lot of ourselves. We, the neurodivergent, risk a lot of ourselves simply by putting ourselves out there and taking the opportunity to live each day to the fullest. And people don't, like neurotypical people, don't tend to respect that.
Mm.
Like we always risk ourselves and our dignity simply by putting ourselves out there and daring to venture into those strange new worlds and the new opportunity. And by meeting new people, we simply risk ourselves every day, and people aren't comfortable taking the risk.
Yeah, that is
Getting
true.
to know us, and
Yeah.
it's discouraging. Like this is why I kind of do this. Like this Club IDIC is an opportunity for storytelling.
Okay. It would be nice to have more storytellers besides us.
I'm sorry for that. I
Oh,
mean,
I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying.
I guess people are afraid to take the risk of getting to know me, you, and this space.
Hmm.
But, you know, history's like that. History involves people being afraid of the unknown each and every day.
But do you fear the unknown or do you relish it?
I don't fear the unknown, and I try to encourage people each and every day to look to the unknown and walk forward in faith, simply because I look at the unknown and I see the unknown and I walk in the unknown every day. Each new day is a strange new world for me. And
Okay.
I have to live with that. I have to live with that. I have to get out of bed and face a strange new world each day.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of
So,
it. So why are you?
okay. And yeah, basically, it's like I said earlier, like you have to want it and you have to work at it. You know, it's not gonna happen overnight,
No,
especially like the more rooted in their ways someone is. So it's kind of hard to change people's opinions. But I don't know about changing people's opinions because that's a whole other thing. But trying to, you know, trying to foster a connection.
Right.
Guys, it's like you saw, see, this is the roots of Miles and Julian talking to each other and eventually hanging out with each other.
I mean, here's the thing. And I mean, Guinan told Jordy this when they were discussing Barclay. If I felt that nobody wanted to be around me, I'd probably be late and nervous too. This is why, like, somebody like me is always nervous and keeps to themselves a lot, because we can feel how neurotypical people feel about us. We can feel it, we can see it, and we stay away because we don't want to create an anger that's already there. We don't want to intensify it. We don't want to make it worse. We don't want to put gas on an already very big fire.
Well, have somebody call you the R word.
Unfortunately. And I mean, it is what it is. You can't change people's minds. You can't make people like you. All you can do is admit that there's a lot of prejudice in this world, and you can speak out about it. And if people choose to care, that's on them.
Yeah, okay. So let me ask you, what strange new world are you going to deal with tomorrow?
I'm going to sing in a choir that's in a church.
Right, right.
It's a nice, safe space because for me, performing, helping stories be told through music or any other form of acting is a safe space for me. And that's great. I mean, I can use my love of art and performing and acting and helping others bring their stories to life through whatever form I feel appropriate or whatever form is accessible as a safe space for me. And I can try my best to be a kind, loving. It's not easy for me to put myself out there, but I can do it through performance because then I have a bit of a shield. Social spaces are hard, but performance is work, and I've always been good in workspaces. They're my strength.
Okay. Now you see the stuff I just typed up in the chat?
Um, oh yes. Okay, yeah. Oh, we've already watched that, but we can watch it again.
So
And
read the other thing I typed.
oh, which show?
Strange new week. Okay, I'll say it out loud. Anything
Oh yes,
about Strange New
I've seen
Worlds.
most of Strange New Worlds. Yes, I love that show.
So does anything about that thing strike a chord with you? Not necessarily in the way the episode we just screened strike a chord, but anything about Strange New Worlds. Because I guess it'd be refreshing if, like, I don't know if yet what Paramount Plus does in Canada,
Oh
but
yes, I've seen it because it's on CTV Sci-Fi.
okay. I'm just saying that because to look at some of the modern material is one thing we look at the classics,
Well,
but
I'm distantly related to Ethan Peck for one. And I think I'm very distantly related to Anson Mount for another. Um, there is more diversity in Strange New Worlds, and they are very diverse with their storytelling, and I appreciate Hemmer.
man, leave the Andorian alone.
Well, he's dead, so what are you going to do about it?
But the ghost of him is gonna hang out in your
Well, no, he's very
bathtub.
unafraid to stand tall. And I mean, people may look at him weird for being a blind Andorian, but he dares to be a blind Andorian. He dares to stand there in confidence and say, hey, I'm a blind Andorian daring to live out my life and serve in Starfleet. And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. And where does
And the
and there's
character,
also him
the actor
trying
is
to get
actually
along.
blind himself.
Sorry, repeat that.
The actor is actually blind himself, and that's something I'm always pushing for. More actors with disabilities playing characters with disabilities, so I highly respect that.
Okay. Yeah, so talk about relationships. What do you think of Sing?
Sing.
Officer Sing, the augment.
Oh,
No, she's related, supposedly related to Khan.
I don't think we know enough about her, but I do like what I've seen. She's very respectable. She has survived a great deal of trauma, but she's she's trying to use it for good and grow in spite of it. And people, despite divergencies, people that, because that is a trauma to have a neurodivergency. It's a trauma you're born with, it's a trauma you grow with. It's a trauma because people do things to you because you're different. And I think that you can learn and grow from that sort of trauma because it's something that will be with you all your life. It's an ongoing growth and evolution process.
Yes, and I don't like being scapegoated any more than you do, I'm sure.
Yes, but I mean, it's painful to live with that kind of a trauma, but you learn to live with it. I mean, there's not a cure for neurodivergency as much as they're experimenting with rats and what's the word I'm looking for?
Basically,
Augmentation cures with rats and things.
and this doesn't sit well with you, I see.
No, it doesn't, because have you ever read the story Flowers for Algernon?
What?
There's this very severely disabled man named Charlie Gordon who undertakes this experiment that makes his IQ go up exponentially. And he ends up very, very smart, and he's okay for a while. And then he suddenly becomes ill as a result of this experiment, and he ends up dying. So no, I'm not in favor of that, because what if the cure is so bad that it ends up taking away the intelligence that the subject already has, and it ends up killing them?
Oh, you shouldn't be surprised how many people actually go for that.
So people would choose death over disability. What a sad, pathetic world we live in.
And
What a real sad, pathetic world we live in, that people would choose to die rather than have a disability. I think I'd choose life and adjust myself and and I'd rather learn to live adjusting myself constantly and becoming better rather than death just to have a cure for this disability. And I know that sounds so extreme, but my God, to chase a cure that could possibly kill you instead of learning to work with what you were born with in terms of neurodivergency, like, really?
well, it depends on the degree of neurodivergency. Like high functioning autism can be dealt with, but my experience, like some people on the more profound side of the spectrum are very difficult to work with.
They are, but I've worked with them. I used to do respite care.
Mm.
And people with lower functioning autism can be taught. It takes a lot of work, but they can still be taught.
If they want to be taught, but then I guess depends, that pretty much applies to everybody. You can do things if you really want to,
Yeah,
but then there's some people that kind of hide behind that for whatever reason.
but still, I'd rather they be alive than chase after a cure that could possibly kill them.
Okay, I get the story now, the one that you were referencing.
I mean, you can read it on your own time if you wish, but it's a sad tale of someone who chased a miracle cure that ended up killing them. So the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Okay. To the
And
person.
that's what the lesson of that story is.
All
He
right. Well,
chased, a,
that's
he
you
chased a
first.
better life and he ended up with no life at all.
All right. So I know we got about 10 more minutes.
Yes. And it's like, we've got to work on helping each other build lives that are so much better than we could imagine, because we can only do so much for ourselves, but we can do a heck of a lot more for each other. And Cassidy Yates, I can literally, let's conclude with something from Cassidy Yates, because she's a wonderful human being. Cassidy Yates from Deep Space Nine said this, because remember in Bada Bing, Bada Bang, when they were talking about the casino, when Captain Sisko was reluctant.
Oh, I was like, oh, this is the 1960s. People were racist to us. Why would I
Yeah.
want to go into that Vic Fontaine thing?
And Cassidy was saying, oh, Jake and I have always been made to feel very comfortable in the casino. And she said this, we are no longer bound by any. Cassidy said this, we are no longer bound by any limitations except for the ones we impose on ourselves. So you see, we are the ones that stop tolerance from progressing into love. I mean, we have the power to welcome IDIC into our lives and into our hearts. It's not easy being ourselves, and it's not easy welcoming others in to our lives. It's not easy remembering to care. It's not easy remembering to love. It's not easy showing love. It's not easy showing unconditional love, but we are capable of it, because we are the ones that impose limits on ourselves in what we do. We aren't bound by limitations. We bind ourselves.
Okay.
And that is today's meeting.
All righty.
Because I know you're tired. I don't
feel kind of straight a little bit, but we got, I guess it was a meaningful discussion tonight.
You feel what?
I think we strayed a little bit, but it
Oh, who
was meaningful
cares?
all the same.
Just, you know what? We didn't restrain ourselves. We didn't restrain ourselves. We didn't impose limitations on ourselves, because we needed to understand that tolerance isn't love. And I wanted to really emphasize the importance of that, and emphasize the importance and the message of my talk, because you know what? Tolerance isn't love. We're no longer bound by any limitations except for the ones we impose on ourselves. And you know what? Just to reemphasize what Chase and Max said, let me find it really quick.
Okay. Don't worry, it'll come to you eventually.
Yes. It's very, very interesting. Like, we should be more like Spock and stand up for those who lack the ability to stand up for themselves, because this world is so cold and unforgiving and nobody deserves to be alone. And tolerating is admitting differences exist. Appreciating is loving that differences exist. We should all work to love each other just a little more. And it's a process, even if we just take one day at a time to work on loving each other just a little more.
Okay.
That's a process.
Well, it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible, just tricky.
It is. That's why that's why it's called a process and not an event. We can take one day at a time to learn how to love each other just a little more. And if all we can do is just do a little bit each day to let ourselves love each other just a little more, we can do, it's an action word. Love is an action word. If we can just do one little thing to work on it. If we can do one thing each day to help ourselves love one another just a little more, one person at a time, that's something. Because we
Is
really
that the
need to.
affirmation of this evening?
Yes, I mean, we need to move beyond tolerance because we're limiting ourselves. We're limiting ourselves by hanging on to tolerance like it's a security blanket. We're
Because
binding
who wants to
ourselves.
put in the work of understanding?
Yes, we're imposing limitations on ourselves when we should be imposing growth. And that's what it is. That's what it's about. And that's all I have for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
And I hope people start watching these episodes you record.
I hope they do too. It was lovely having you tonight.
All right.
Good night.
All right. You can't do that thing, can you?
No.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Tape my fingers, maybe.
Right. Okay.
This is about as far as I can get.
All right. Farewell, Heather.
Farewell, my friend Anthony. Thank you all for coming to this meeting. Live long and prosper.